Hello you guys, and thank you so much for tuning into yet another video. So you guys, I just wanted to make another video today just to get it out of the way, because this has been something that's been playing on in my heart for a long time. Now, divestment is not something that I really talk about within my videos, but it is something that I've just for myself, has become very, very important. So, what is divestment? What is divestment? Essentially, divestment is a movement that was started by Black women, primarily in the United States, who were in the Level Up movement. Do y'all remember that song? But Sierra doesn't know what she did. She does not know it. She started within the culture because after that whole song came out, there was this whole Level Up movement where suddenly Black women were looking at women like Sierra, accomplished Black women who are in healthy, happy, loving, successful relationships with men that were their, their equals. So, this got Black women talking, and from that conversation about wanting better for yourself, wanting a partner that's going to offer you more than, an unwanted pregnancy, a baby mom, or an STD, or some side chicks fighting you on the side, there suddenly was this collective voice of Black women being like, you know what, we're actually exhausted. And it's ironic because for me, look, I grew up in the suburbs. We were one of the first Black families in our neighborhood. And I was always teased, called a coconut, called an Oreo, everything under the book because of how I spoke and because of my dating preferences. Early on in college, it was not that common for Black women to be with white men. It wasn't really a thing. So I definitely stood out. And it was so funny, sort of, as you see these trends pick up momentum. It started with the whole swirling movement. And once there was the whole Level Up movement, going back to the Level Up movement, Black women started realizing that, you know what? If we're going to have the kind of happiness that we deserve, if we're going to have the kind of love that we deserve, we need to be honest with ourselves and realize that we need to open up our options and not only date Black men, but open up our options to white, Hispanic, Chung Lee, Asian men, be looking good, like just all of them, girl. Opening your options up to the best partner who is going to treat you well and who is going to give you the love and the respect that you deserve. Girl. So that's how it essentially started. And once people started realizing that, once people sort of brought up that question, which group of men are going to offer us happiness? Which group of men are most likely, statistically, to provide security? Which group of men historically are known to value the familial unit? Once those conversations came up, and Black women started having those conversations, obviously we live in a society that's very pro-Black love, pro-Black struggle and all of this, and there were all of these voices and people from the outside, people from the Black community essentially, shaming Black women for wanting to be with men of different races. Now, the hypocrisy is not lost to me. If you look, especially within the United States, even if you look in Europe, girl, when Black men have reached a level of success, more often than not, we see them either with extremely light-skinned Black women who, you would not know they were black unless they told you, who, or they're just with straight up white women or Asian women. I mean, it's very, very common that black men marry outside of the community once they're successful. But once black women started opening themselves up to this option, suddenly it was an issue. Suddenly it was a problem. And suddenly black women were being gaslit collectively. So, here is my question. It's a question that I'm going to pose to you. I know the answer for myself, and this is what I truly believe for myself. So, the question is the divestment movement toxic? Or has it become toxic over the years? We sort of see how it started with these wonderful intentions, but the divestment movement focuses primarily on showing black women that black men essentially ain't it. They essentially ain't it. I mean, black girls have been taught up in a black male worshipping culture. Growing up in the early 90s, you were expected as a black woman to be with a black king. You were expected to be with your black king, to hold your king down. You were expected to be with him in that way. And a lot of black women really have struggled with this idea of letting go of this idea of being with a big, strong, black, melanated king who's going to protect them. A lot of black women have taken on the black male identity in the sense that whenever anything goes down in the black community, at the front line, right at the front line, you're going to see dark-skinned, phenotypically black women fighting for the entire, black women and their daughters, and their 8-year-old black daughters, defending a group of men who wouldn't defend them. I mean, you ask the question, is the divestment movement toxic? No, it is not. If the divestment movement is toxic, it is only a reaction to the greater toxicity within the black community, the greater misogynoir that is directed towards black women. I mean, there's so many videos. I could link them all, but we would be here all day. Essentially, I honestly feel that black women got to a stage where collectively we were just exhausted with the pain. And it's become a running joke when you are from our community, unfortunately, that it's assumed that if you don't have a dad in your life, he probably pumped and dumped. It's like a lot of things are just thrown at you because of how dysfunctional our community has become. By and large, men in our community do not value the familial unit. By and large, they don't. That's why you have these dudes up here on all of these different podcasts talking about how they're a high-valued man and how they're a high-value man, and it's like, you got promoted to team lead at the Amazon warehouse. You know what I mean? It's like, you know what I mean? So by and large, the community does not value family or marriage. That's why so many black women remain unmarried. And it's absolutely unfair, and it is a joke to expect black women collectively to hold on to the promise that a black man is going to come when he simply doesn't. Now, a lot of black people within the community are angry at the divestment movement, and to some degree, I understand some of the concerns. I think some of us within the divestment community, we've made divestment a part of our identity. Let's talk about the concerns that I have for the divestment community. So with any type of community, you're going to find people that tend to be a little bit extreme. You're going to find people that have had different experiences. And often, I find what brings us all together within the greater divestment space is that a lot of us have been hurt badly by Blackistan. Girl, I'm from South Africa. I'm from Blackistan, Africa edition. Let that sink in. So, a lot of us have seen things. I mean, a lot of us collectively, we come and we have so much pain. So it's understandable that when there are these spaces, these safe spaces for Black women, that misandry will, obviously it's going to be there. Obviously, it's a space where we need to talk about our pain and not be judged for it. And I found, at least for myself, like I jumped into a lot of different divestment leaders, like obviously Sinji, our legend, Lexus Exodus, absolutely love her. Who else? Those are the two main ones that I've and Tanya, TKO, of course. Love that. But I've learned that just for myself and for my own mental health, I need to be mindful of how much of that information I take in. Like Lexus Exodus always likes to say, with some videos, thread lightly, move with caution, because once you get into the divestment space, when you hear all of these stories, it's easy for it to cloud your mind. It's easy for it to make you embittered, because you not only live your own trauma, but your trauma is triggered by the trauma of other people who've gone through horrible situations that are grossly unfair. Now, obviously, some of us take it to levels that could be considered mean-spirited, based on who you ask. I probably shouldn't laugh at this one, because this one was actually one that kind of disturbed me a little bit. So there was a TikTok video. I'm not going to show the TikTok video on my video, because I just feel like I'm trying not to spew hatred on my videos anymore. I'm trying to, stop that now. But essentially, this Black girl is singing, and the caption is sort of, sing to the one that you love. Sing to the one that you love, or the one that you find attractive. And then, suddenly you see all these different pictures of different white men, and she's sort of singing and, seductively, feeling herself. And I'm like, get it, girl. Then they start showing black eyes, and the music stops. Silence. Different black eyes, and you can see her expression kind of in And then the last man they show is George Floyd, and then she acts as though she's about to throw up. And I just remember being so taken aback just by that imagery and just that joke. I understand humor. We all have our own opinions. Hey. But I just remember feeling like that was in bad taste. Yes, George Floyd, a lot of people argue that, he wasn't the greatest of people. However, sometimes I think when you come from a space of absolute hatred, and it's fueled by something that started so pure, it can cause so much damage, not only for other people, but for you as a person. So there was another channel that once I really got into divestment, that I really wanted to start watching. And I want to preface this by saying that the content creator, she's absolutely wonderful, and she actually has good, sound, solid advice. But I would say to people that, you know, she's not the one you go to if you haven't watched a divestment you know, thing before, or a divestment channel before. Like, she's, you know, once you've moved up in divestment, then you can sort of handle her. I'm not going to say her name. I'm not going to say her name because, again, I'm not trying to send anything out to anyone else that might be considered negative, but in her channel, she has a picture. In the picture is, there's a black man who is being unearthed in the traditional way, if you know what that means, post-slavery, during slavery, what they used to do to some melanated men. They used to take ropes, and the ropes would then be used around, you know, and then they would be certain things I can't say on YouTube, but basically that's the picture she has on her YouTube. And then on the other branch is a melanated goddess, you know, swinging on a tree, living her best life, because she's unaffected by whatever is going on with that black man. And I just remember thinking, being in two minds, and I'm saddened now that I was in two minds back then. There's a joke that runs within the divestment community, which is, no black woman was hurt in the making of this foolishness, in the making of this foolishness, no black woman was hurt. And, you know, one of the points that we like to push forward is that, you know, a lot of the issues within the black community really don't affect black women. And black women don't have to be the ones at the forefront. But then on the other hand, and I still feel this strongly today, more so now, such imagery creates a society that lacks empathy. In the divestment space, there's a lot of banter, there's a lot of joking around, but underneath all of that joking around there is this hatred that sort of seeps in. And I would say, if you are a divester, do not make so much of your identity about divesting. Swallow the meat and spit out the bones. It's just the nastiness and the vitriol of it. And I'm going to be honest, I engaged in it. When Kitten Samuels had that very, very low value unearthing, I kikied the loudest. But, you know, the more I grow and the more I learn, I'm learning as a person that type of energy, that type of hatred, that type of vitriol, that's not something that I want for myself. Granted, I mean, I'm glad that the man's off YouTube. Black women, rejoice if you want to. But I've just learned that, you know, if I'm going to be a divester, it's important that I don't make it all my identity. And it's important that I don't lose my empathy for humanity. Yes, use discernment in your dating preferences and in your dating choices. And I also think my one biggest gripe that I've had with divesting is that there seems to be this romanticized ideal version of the Brad. And a Brad that's the name that we give, you know, white men or Caucasian men. And it almost seems as though we have made them more than what they actually are. What I want to say to you is that look beyond a man's skin color. Do not swap black male worship for white male worship. girl, I mean, if you're gonna get a white dude, don't get Bob from The Job. Don't get Bob from The Job, funky dude from accounting department. I forgot who made that joke. Get Bob from The Job's boss. Get Robert from The Job. Get him. Make sure he's young and he treats you well. You still need to, I think, before you divest, I think your energy should be spent primarily on getting hydrated, focusing on yourself, taking care of yourself, nurturing yourself, doing all of those things, and asking yourself, what do I deserve? What is important to me? And who is going to give this to me? And what are my boundaries? And then looking at your partners, and if he's white and it fails, that doesn't mean divestment doesn't work. It doesn't mean that you're a failure. It doesn't mean that there's something wrong with you. It just means that there was, just the two of you guys didn't match. That's all that it means. And it's also important, it really, 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 really is, to understand that when you divest, it's important to divest fully from the community. And that looks like divesting from, I hate to say it, from Blackistan as a whole. Leaving Blackistan as a whole. You really can't have, because the thing is, especially if you're somebody who's been traumatized in Blackistan, if you're able to get out of that hood, if you're able to move out or anything, if that is a possibility at all, take it and do it. I still stand by this idea of that, black women should divest or die. I really believe that divestment is imperative. So a lot of you watching me probably wonder why I feel so sorry about that. I just had to take a quick break, but I just want you to know that divestment is about you. Divestment is about leaving the pain of Blackistan and walking into a version of life that includes your happiness. So, going back to a point that I made, during this video, a lot of you may have wondered why I feel so passionate about divestment, because if you haven't realized or noticed, I'm a transgender woman and I'm a part of the greater LGBTQ plus community. So the second question I really want to pose to now the LGBTQ plus community is that, should trans women divest from black men? Should black gay men divest from black men? And to be honest, I think within the LGBT community, it's imperative. It is imperative. You absolutely, absolutely, absolutely have to. You absolutely have to. Because when we talk about trans women, when we talk about the experiences that trans women have and how a lot of us are unearthed, the ones that are being taken out are the ones from Blackistan. And the ones taking them out are Tyrone, Pookie, Ray Ray. It's all of them. All of them taking. It's, you know what I mean? So I think it's very, very important for trans women in the greater LGBTQ plus community to divest, because by and large, I mean, if you look at the rates of violence towards people like us, it does seem to be coming from our own community, which saddens me. Now, I'm not saying completely cut yourself off, because I believe, hey, if you truly believe in true love and you want that prince, that melanated prince of yours, I think then exercise discernment. Exercise discernment. And whatever decision you make, if you choose to not divest, be it that you're a black trans woman, or you're just a biological black woman, or or whatever you are, whatever you have going on, if you choose not to divest and you choose to stay within Blackistan, do it because that's where you found love. Do it because that's where you found happiness. Don't do it because of what the divestment community has said, or what the manosphere has said, or what this other person has said. Look within yourself. You have the answers. You are the one who knows whether or not the divestment community is toxic or not for you. And you are the one who knows whether or not you need to, take in more of that content, or just, like swift some of it out. But whatever you do, just do it in love. Do it in love and understand that you deserve the best. I think all of us, all divestors, can agree that what we want to see happen is we want to see we want to see Black women happy. And going back to the LGBT community, I know, I fully understand that the divestment community is extremely anti-LGBTQ+. A lot of the people I'm subscribed to are extremely homophobic and transphobic and misgender us and call us all of this nasty. Again, swallow the meat, spit out the bones. Because, believe it or not, my sweet dear LGBTQ+ queer angel, there is valid information that you can still get from Sinji's videos, that you can definitely get from Lexus Exodus videos. And yeah, I hope I didn't ramble too much. Yeah, like, I stay divested. I mean, look, I've been disappointed by Brads, and I'll be the first one to talk about how, like, I've encountered racist Brads who liked me but had an issue with the Black community as a whole. And I've also had to work with dealing with the fact that my white partner did not have the same level of pro-Blackness that I had, and there were certain things that he just wouldn't understand, and I needed to get to a place and a point where I would be okay with that, where I'd be comfortable with that, you know what I mean? So, yeah, so for all of those that divest, I send you off in love, and I hope you find your perfect Chung-Li, Jose, or Brad, or Muhammad. And for those that choose to stay within Blackistan, we leave you with love, and we hope that you find the love that you deserve, as long as you're happy. And so it is. Alright, bye. Bye.